This is your government. That means you own it. The owner's manual is the U.S. Constitution.
We are at Article 1, Section 8, the powers of Congress. And we come now to coin money. Now, these powers have to do with promoting the general welfare. So as we look at each one of them, I want to look at how does this promote the general welfare? So Lily, would you like to read about what this next one is?
To coin money, regulate the value thereof, and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures.
Good. Okay, so what does it mean to coin money? What is money?
A medium of exchange.
Medium of exchange, exactly right. Here you have one guy, and here you have another. This guy has lots and lots of shoes. He's got so many shoes, he doesn't know what to do with them all. This guy has lots and lots of eggs. He got so many eggs, he doesn't know what to do with them all. But he needs shoes, and this guy needs eggs. They're going to have to be able to trade somehow. But what if you can't find a guy? What if you can't find the guy that has shoes and he wants eggs, and it becomes very complex and confusing? So you have to have some medium, some arbitrary thing that you can use for both people to be able to exchange. And then you can not only buy shoes and eggs, but you can buy cows and tables and shirts and everything else. What's that, Jim?
I said it looks like an ATM machine.
And that's a medium of exchange. Very good. And as many of you are probably aware, there have been very many different media of exchange throughout the ages. Shells, goats,
Big round rocks.
and we've used round rocks, and we've used,
Salt.
this is one of the
Salt.
favorites, what's that?
Salt. That's a good one.
Salt, right?
That's
And one of the favorites has been, all along,
Gold.
throughout centuries, is gold.
Shiny.
Or because you don't have enough gold, you can also use silver as well. But why would it promote the general welfare for Congress to be able to coin money? Why do you think it might be?
Well, if you have a common medium of exchange, then that just makes the market work faster. You don't have to look for somebody who has something that you need to make a trade with him, or to trade with a third party who's going to trade with him or whatever. You can just go, here's the thing, boom. It speeds up the whole process, and that's better for everybody.
Good, speeds up the whole process, that's good, yeah, Rick.
And it's a known value, it's an established and known value.
Good, that's a really important point, is that this, whatever we're going to use here, whether it's a cowrie shell, whether it's a goat, whether it's a piece of gold, whatever it is, that this has a known value today that's going to be pretty much the same tomorrow. That way you can predict how many goats you're going to be able to get for this gold. You're going to have confidence in the future with this, yes.
And if Congress is deciding how much money is in circulation, that also, they're making sure there's enough to carry out commerce, and also it's not getting dumped into the market to devalue it, so they get to manage it, and they're answerable to the people for what is being done as far as producing that money. And what's more, it's not something that's being loaned by someone else with interest. It's simply currency produced to run commerce in the country.
I wish you did one point at a time.
Okay, sorry.
Exactly right, because there is a problem with money. No matter who generates the money, there's always a problem with money. If you have too much money, it devalues it, and then that means that you, who just sold your eggs for $1 a dozen, and you expected to be able to buy shoes for $1 a pair, if suddenly there's a whole bunch more money, you got to have a whole bunch more money to be able to buy those shoes. Your money went down the drain in the intervening time between when you sold your eggs and the time you found the guy with the shoes. There's also the other problem, which is if there's not enough money going around, in which case you can't sell your eggs because nobody has any money to buy it. And you have to end up then resorting to barter, and we end up going downhill and not being able to produce enough wealth. By the way, wealth, that's another word we have to deal with here. What would be the definition of wealth?
Stuff.
Stuff that other people want.
Good, good. That is exactly what I was going to say. This right here is wealth. This right here is wealth. It's the eggs and the shoes. This right here is the medium of exchange. It's not wealth itself. It's only a measure of wealth. Another little piece to this is that the eggs and the shoes, the fact that it took a little energy and effort to produce these things. Because, I mean, if eggs were laying around all over the place and it didn't take anything to make them, we wouldn't even consider it wealth.
Money right now does not exist.
Okay?
That's true.
That's right. That's all done,
It's all based on credit.
It's all based on credit.
Numbers and
Okay,
computers.
what if I were to tell you that I would gladly pay you next Tuesday for a hamburger today?
Until you go get a job.
yeah. that's- Kick you out of my restaurant.
But then you gave it to me and I later on came back and paid you the next day. Or I said, I'm really hungry, I need a hamburger. And for that hamburger, I will work for you, but right now I need the hamburger so that I can then have enough energy to be able to push the broom around your shop.
That implies a level of trust.
That implies trust, exactly right, yes, sir.
But essentially, if you will take my chip, my IOU,
That's right,
okay, and you'll take his, and you'll take hers.
right.
There's no reason why you can't exchange them. And that bottom line, it says note, Federal Reserve note.
Right,
It's a
That's right,
Federal
it's a
Reserve
chip.
IOU.
it's an IOU, exactly
That's all
right.
it is.
That's right.
It's a promise to pay. They used to say that right on the money, and this is a promise to pay $20 in gold or
In
silver.
gold, because they were on the gold standard. That was the gold standard, but it's not the gold standard now. All it is it's $20. And because I have confidence that Federal Reserve System is not going to collapse, then when you give me $20, I know that I can go trade it for somebody's goat.
Yeah, it doesn't have intrinsic value. We've just accepted that it is.
Right, because it's based on debt, it's based on IOU. And it's saying, if you give me a hamburger, I'm gonna sweep out your shop. And that means that you are trusting me to do that. And it's a monetary system where the commodity that's being traded is IOU. It's strictly and only credit. It's how much I trust you to be able to make good on it.
And so the Constitution, gave Congress that power to manage the production of those IOUs.
Right.
And of course, that would be interest-free. It's just, okay, we're going to put enough currency into circulation to handle that. Now Congress says to the Federal Reserve, oh, hey, we need another $100 billion. Federal Reserve prints up this paper, hands it over and says, okay, now you owe us interest on those pieces of paper. You have to just keep giving us real value back that everyone's working to produce, just so we give you those pieces of paper.
All right. So, we've given Congress the power to coin money and regulate the value thereof. If I want to keep things so that I have confidence that tomorrow I'm going to be able to buy a pair of shoes and stuff. As production increases here and we have more production, I'm going to put more money into the money supply so that prices will remain somewhat stable. So they're going to regulate the value thereof. And it's simplest way to regulate the value thereof is to change the money supply, I would think. Yeah, Jay.
Well, the Federal Reserve under Bernanke is, completely hung up. We cannot have deflation. So we've got to have programmed inflation, and Yellen and Bernanke and all their targets have been 2% a year, which means every 25 years, your money becomes worth half of what it was when you started.
Right.
We see that in the grocery
That's the
store.
program.
And regulating the value thereof is fraught with problems, because nobody really understands what the impact is going to be down the road of any policy change.
Interesting, okay, right?
I was just wondering if we missed one thing on the coining money as far as what's actually on it, other than a federal note, that it also represents which government is authorizing the money and the authority there. So essentially, instead of each state individually having their own money, that it's saying we're not going to have a common money that is going to be under Congress, is, you know, essentially versus, okay, it's Caesar's money, it's, you know, the
Yeah,
king's
which
money.
was a problem that they did have in the colonies at that time. Massachusetts had its own money and Virginia had its own money and so on. So we're going to have a national money instead. Quite often throughout the 1800s, there would be what they called panics because banks in South Carolina or someplace else would print too much money or take in too much and their bills of credit wouldn't be worth anything anymore and that sort of thing. And they had panics throughout the 1800s for that. Yeah.
Part of the way they originally controlled the value of the money was by setting the price of the metals.
Right.
Okay, when then the gold and silver standard, the government also set the price
Right.
for those commodities, and so they maintained, for many years, gold was 16 something, then it went to 20, then it went to 32.
Right.
And that was the way that they controlled the value of the currency at the time.
Exactly so. Exactly so. One of the problems that I find with gold is that when you have a fixed amount, if this guy suddenly starts making a whole bunch more shoes and somebody else invents a semiconductor and then you have a whole new product line and there's tremendous amounts of production, you don't have an increase in the money supply to be able to handle all that. It's not elastic enough to be able to do that, and it's too easy for some people to hoard it and be able to control that way too. But that's my own personal thought on the subject. So we talked about coining money, we talked about regulating the value thereof and foreign coin, being able to regulate our coin against the foreign coin, which now we have markets in London and New York that do that all the time, and Tokyo. And fix the standard of weights and measures, and that fits right in there because we're talking about the amount of something. How much of a goat do you have to be a goat? Can you have a goat that only has 3 legs, or does it have to have 4? Are we ready to move on to the next one? Bill?
To provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States.
Right, because if you're going to coin money, you have to be careful. Somebody's going to come along and try to pretend that they're you. So you have to be able to punish the counterfeiting of... Now, it says the securities, which is the promise to pay in the future, and also the current coin, which is what you have right now. I mean, I always thought that it was interesting that you have currency, and that means it's current. It's what it's being traded right now for eggs and shoes. And the securities, which is, rather than presenting someone the goat, you present them an IOU for a goat. It is a security that you're going to do that. The next part covers Article 1, Section 8, Clauses 7 to 10, promoting the general welfare.